Good evening and welcome to our live webinars that happen every Saturday at 4:30. I am Simran Chopra, and if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do and subscribe to this channel as well. Now, every Saturday we will bring to you something different, either a live recipe demo, a workout, a lovely interview with someone in the leading nutrition on health field, or something else. So make sure you block this time off. Now today we're doing something that's very interesting. If you know me, you know I love Chinese food. So we're going to be, and we sent out so many Chinese recipes. We'll put a link for you to subscribe to our recipes as well. But today we're going to teach you how to make a really simple Chinese stir fry, which is like the base of everything else. It's like a restaurant style stir fry. You can manipulate it, you can change it around, edit it, and get a lot of other recipes from it. But we'll go into how to do it the right way so it tastes absolutely amazing. And for that, I'm going to introduce you to the person who comes up with all our Chinese recipes, my mother, and she's also the recipe creator of most of our family recipes. So I'm going to ask her to come in, and she's going to demonstrate it to you, because who better than getting our mother's recipes? Okay, so today
good evening.
We're doing that. We're using a completely vegetarian recipe today. We will also tell you how to make it if you want to make it with egg, if you want to make it with chicken or any other meat. So now, to start out, we're going to start out basically with first all the ingredients, right? So I'll let her take it from there.
For Chinese, all the Chinese recipes, what's most important is the cutting. In fact, the prep time takes longer than the cooking time, which is unfortunately true, because each and every thing that you cut, vegetable you cut, has to be the same size, or else one will cook faster and one will cook later. So you'll have a mix. So for example, the carrots, as you can see, it's all into very thin strips. So is the beans, and the spring onions are cut into little strips. The capsicum has been cut into very fine thin strips as well.
So all of them are nearly the same size. So even when you are, so they're nearly the same size, all of them. So that when you get them in your food as well, you're not getting different chunks. Obviously now this is not possible if you're going to do it with broccoli. But you're looking at basically the same size, so that they cook evenly and they come out and they cook at the same speed. Here you can't use a chopper from what I'm told, because if all the sizes are different, they'll cook at different times. You'll have some soggy, some raw, etc. So this is Chinese is one of those things that you can't use a chopper, unfortunately. In Indian you can, right? Which one is that?
This is bottle gourd. I guess everyone must be really surprised, because you cannot make it out when it's in the recipe. It tastes really nice. It's bottle gourd and it's cut very thin, very fine. Then
let me see if it's seen nicely. Yeah, then we have the cabbage,
which again has been cut very fine and thin. Then we have come to the mushrooms, which I normally cut into thin strips. Take the full mushroom and cut into thin strips. Broccoli we cut into florets, and each floret that we make it into half. You can blanch it if you want to, but I do not do that. It's nice to have it a little crunchy.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the things with mushrooms is that people will want to know is how do you clean them first, and how do you even know that they're okay to use? I know that the really dark, dirty mushrooms may not be, and if they're soggy, to let them go. But we've used the stems as well, but we wash them first, right? And then cut them once they are dry. So please wash them. Broccoli, please soak in hot water with salt, and then ideally lift it out of the boiling water, so all your worms will usually be dead and at the bottom. Yeah.
The same applies to cauliflower. You can do that. You can add cauliflower. You can add a lot of other vegetables to this, like zucchini, cauliflower, bok choy, spinach, a lot of other. So it tastes very nice, but everything has to be cut into thin strips, like what we have done here. Then comes the garlic, which again is into very, very small pieces over here, chopped.
And that you can use a chopper.
Yeah. And the ginger, which is into julienne. And of course the little green chilies, which is optional, which is chopped because we like little chilies, and that's done. Okay, so this is the basic ingredients, and then we have also made the corn flour slurry and kept it ready. Okay.
So how much corn flour and how much water?
There's water about 3-4 tablespoons with about 1.25 teaspoon of corn flour. That all depends on what you're making and how thick or thin you want the gravy. I just want a little coating. The sauce has a coating in all the vegetables, so just a little bit to give that coating. That's it. So we will start. I like to, another thing is that all the vegetables should ideally be washed first and then cut. Because if you cut it and then wash it, they'll have water in it. And when you start cooking, it'll start leaving water and everything will become soggy. So it's important to wash and then cut. That would be the right thing to do. Now we can start, but since we're using mushrooms, I always like to use just 2 drops of oil first in the wok. You don't have to use a wok, you can use a karai or you can use a pan, but it has to be a thick pan so that it doesn't start burning or cooking very fast. Though for Chinese you do need a little high flame. So I put hardly any oil and I'm just going to rub the entire wok with it so that I can just toss the mushrooms a little.
So this is where a spatula comes really handy, because you can actually spread that very little bit of oil onto the entire pan, which you won't be able to do it if you use a different kind. Like if you see, if I use this, there's no way to spread
There's no way, there's no oil here. There's no oil, it just rubbed the
There's
oil.
a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, 2-3 drops, literally. Now we'll just let it heat a little and we shall add the mushrooms first, so that we can saute the mushrooms a little bit and then they taste much nicer if you put it right in the end. Yeah, so here we go with the mushrooms. Soy sauce on the fridge.
Okay, so while she's making that, let me also grab the soy sauce. We keep the soy sauce in the refrigerator once it's opened. I'm just going to grab it. This is the one that we put on. I think I've sent an email with this one as well. It's the Kikkoman one. We buy the 1 liter only because we do a lot of Chinese cooking. This is also the one that you find at all the, you know, when you go to a Japanese restaurant and they give you that little soy sauce to put in that little dish, they all are using Kikkoman. So it tastes very different. It also doesn't have any color in it. It's actually a Japanese brand. It tastes very different. If you try to use that regular one which has a caramel color, you will find that your Chinese tastes completely different. For this recipe, we're using the Kikkoman, which is a light soy. Okay, whereas you also get dark soy, which is used for different recipes, and you can mix them. Now, the thing with soy sauce is that it has a good amount of sodium in it. So I would suggest, and it has gluten in it naturally. So these are things that but it's such a small amount that you're putting in that it shouldn't matter, because it's not like you're going, even if you put a teaspoon, it's not like you're going to eat that full teaspoon. But the thing with soy sauce, which she will also tell you, is when you're putting soy sauce, you have to be very careful about the amount of salt you put in, because soy sauce on its own is salty, right? So now that,
but I can give you another really nice tip. You can use the soy sauce, add a little bit of garlic in it and chopped green chilies and serve it along with your Chinese. It just tastes yum.
but you have to let it soak in the soy sauce for some time.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, do it in the morning, where you put the chopped garlic, the chopped green chilies, and put it in the soy sauce in the morning, and then you serve it with your food in the evening. It also works as a very nice marinade for chicken, etc. Right?
Now, as you can see, the mushrooms have been nicely stir fried, looking really good. So I'll just remove it and put it out into a plate. And we go back now with the rest. I will be adding half a tablespoon of oil. That's literally what I've added. It's very little. And again, just let the pan heat up a little. Then we start with adding the chopped garlic. You have to roast the garlic really nicely. Keep stirring. Please do not leave it, because if you leave it, some parts will become dark brown, some parts will become light brown, and it will have a very different texture to it. So you need to keep stirring it so that as much as possible, so that you can have one color or one basic color throughout. As you can see, it's heating up.
So if you, the garlic is the only thing that, and the ginger, the garlic mostly is the only thing that you can really use a chopper for. So I have a really nice chopper. I mean, I though find chopping garlic extremely therapeutic, because I use that giant knife and I use that other technique. It's quite therapeutic. But If you don't like chopping garlic, then you can use a chopper, because here the garlic size won't matter and you want it really small.
Yeah.
Okay.
To
So,
this-
oh, this smells so good.
Yeah. To this now we add the green chilies.
That's optional.
That's
I mean, if you cannot eat green chilies or you think it's too spicy, don't add it.
Yeah. As you can see, the garlic is changing a nice beigey brown color. Now to this we will add the ginger juliennes.
So juliennes are, wait, juliennes are basically when they're cut thin, and they're cut really thin and long. So this is cut purposely like that, so you get a little bit of the ginger, you get the chew of the ginger basically. So it's not like a ginger garlic paste.
So once the garlic gets a little brown, to that you add a little bit, then you can add the green chilies, and within few seconds of that you can add the ginger. So now you have to stir fry so that the ginger gets a little fried. It should not be totally raw. It has that fried texture, so that it, when you are eating it, also gives a nice feel and also a nice flavor.
Also, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, you can put it in the comments, because I have my phone and I can reply to you like literally instantly, because I'm not the one really doing the major work here. But you're going to probably need your chimney on, because green chilies smoke. We can't have it on because the mic would pick it up and you wouldn't hear anything else except for that. So we are going to have to just deal with it.
Yeah. Now we start with the vegetables, which takes longest to cook. We start with the beans. So we put the shredded beans, stir it for a few seconds. Mix it well with the garlic. Need to stir fry this for maybe a minute or so before you add the next. In Chinese, the vegetables should not be totally cooked. They should be 90%
90% cooked, so basically they stay a little crunchy.
Yeah.
In Chinese food, you don't have soggy vegetables really. You want that slight crunch, and this is a stir fry. You'll see in a stir fry, it is always slightly crunchy. Now, someone, Shamin has asked, what kind of wok is this? So this is a traditional Chinese wok.
Yes.
Since you are from Calcutta, it is much easier to get these things there, because there's a very large Chinese community. You will be able to get a Chinese wok, but really, like, if you are not someone who makes a ton of Chinese food, we eat Chinese like 3-4 times a week, sometimes even more. So if you are not someone who makes that much Chinese, you can use a kadai, which is fine.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, your cooking time will change a little bit, because a wok is really, really thin. It transfers heat really, really quickly compared to a kadai or the kind of kadai you're using. But if you've been cooking with that kadai, you'll be okay to know that just by visually that, you know, you have to make sure things basically don't burn. And in Chinese, the vegetables don't overcook. So you don't want to cook it like you would cook, let's say, a gobi aloo, right? So that's that.
Now to this we'll add after a minute or so of stirring the beans, we will add the carrots.
Okay, so for Sana and the people who joined late, I'm going to quickly go over this to bring you up to speed. We started out with introducing the ingredients. The key points were that all the ingredients of vegetables that you use must be cut very thin and at the same size. Okay, apart from that, we have chopped garlic, chopped chili, and thinly sliced ginger. The ginger is sliced like that. Okay, so before we started, what we did was we first pre-cooked the mushrooms only with a little bit of oil, cooked it, stir fried it, removed it. Then this is the main preparation where we started with oil, put in the garlic till it became brown. You have to keep stirring continuously, don't stop. Then she added in the green chilies, and then we added in the ginger. Keep stirring, don't stop. You probably need a chimney because it's going to smoke a little bit. Followed by the first ingredient she put in was the carrots, then the beans. With the vegetables, the logic is that you put in the vegetables that take longer to cook first. So like we have capsicum or red capsicum here, you know that red capsicum will cook very quickly, or cabbage will cook very quickly. We have bottle gourd quickly. They will go towards the end.
Now we will add the bottle gourd at this stage. Behind you. The bottle gourd, though it sounds doesn't sound good, I guess, to people, but it really tastes yum, and it's quite a common ingredient in cooking Chinese stir fry. People put even what do you call it, torai,
So right, yeah. I
Rich gourd, rich
yeah.
gourd. People even put rich gourd. You will find a lot of restaurants, they do put rich gourd in their stir fry as well.
And
it
you
does
find a
taste
lot
nice.
of hindi as well, okra in Chinese cooking, which is not common in India because ours is a very Indianized sort of Chinese. But when you start experimenting with the cuisine in a larger way, you'll find lots of more ingredients being used, because clearly they can't be eating all their food just with like 5 ingredients, right?
We need to stir this a lot because as it is, you can see there is no oil anywhere. We've used absolutely minimum oil. So that's the reason you need to keep stirring it, or it'll start cooking more at the bottom and less at the top.
Now the difference here is that if you were making this, let's say for a party, or you're catering, or if you were a chef at a restaurant, then you're going to put in a ton of oil. At that point they put in a crazy amount of oil because they're like literally frying it, which is why you feel so heavy when you order Chinese from outside and you finish eating, right? But when you eat it at home, it's very different because we are trying to make it with very little oil, which requires a little more effort because you're going to have to keep stirring continuously so that it doesn't burn. And because you're using a wok, heat is transferred much more quickly, right?
To this we can add now a little bit of 1 teaspoon sugar.
So this is just plain white sugar. I don't recommend replacing this with jaggery. It's going to taste really funny. It's not good to heat honey, so don't do that. Let her put
and then we add salt to taste. Please put less. You can always add more because we are adding soya sauce. Salt and pepper goes at this stage. Salt and pepper according to taste.
And also, if you're wondering why you put sugar, this is a flavor enhancer, right? So if you, it's technically the replacement here for MSG or Ajinomoto. And when you add a little bit of that in Chinese food, you'll see that the flavor profile changes completely. I mean, if you watch enough MasterChef, you would have heard balance the flavor, balance the palate, sweet, spicy, acid, blah, blah, blah. Similar to that, right?
So now to this, now we add the broccoli, which needs to cook a little, though it should be crunchy, but while the wattle gourd and the beans are getting still done, this will get done too.
So for the ones who came in late, we said that the broccoli, you could blanch it if you want, or you can use it the way it is, depending on how much you're using of it. But do soak it in hot water with salt before, right? You want to get rid of your the worms and stuff.
Especially
right?
for cauliflower, that's a must.
Yeah. You don't need broccoli. You can use cauliflower. It is really nice.
You can add spinach too, but the full leaf or half a leaf. Don't cut them in small. They should be one leaf cut into 2 pieces.
You can keep putting in any questions you have, and I'll reply to them.
The reason we are doing this slowly so that you can see each and every step. As you can see that the carrots have started cooking and they're more or less done. So now by the time we add the other vegetables, it will be done right and then it will be ready.
If you are using a lot of oil, this process would have been sped up quite a bit, but we are not. Okay, now the capsicum. So we're nearly near the end of it because we'll see how it comes together.
Now you can use green capsicum, yellow capsicum or red capsicum. That's totally up to you. It doesn't matter. You can use all 3 as well. If you're making a large amount, you can use half of each. That gives a nice color.
So Sangeeta has asked if you're adding any protein. You can add protein, but just because the larger audience is vegetarian, we did it vegetarian today. The way to add protein here, she'll tell you how to add protein. But if you are adding chicken or if you are adding egg, it would be different. So
if you're adding chicken, you first cut the chicken into thin strips and then marinate it for a few minutes with salt, pepper and a wee bit of corn flour and keep it for about 10 minutes. And then again with just few drops of oil in your wok, you first add, like we did the mushrooms first, you add the chicken first and you make sure that the oil is a little hot. You add the chicken and just leave it there. Do not stir it immediately, just leave it there and slowly when you can see the bottom part starts cooking, the chicken bottom, you can see the edges have turned white. Then you flip the side and you do the other side. When both sides are done, you nicely stir it for just few, I would say just a minute or 2 and remove it and keep it aside. It's ready for adding in the end.
That's the chicken, right?
Yeah, when the chicken is done, you keep it aside. When the vegetables are totally done and when it's completed your entire cooking, just add the chicken and stir fry.
Can you just put in a comment if our voices are clear, because you know the induction is on, there is like there's all this moving going on and all this. So because then what we'll do is, instead of explaining like how to add the protein now, we can finish this and then explain it to you. So just put it in the comment.
Now we can add the spring onions. The spring onions need to also remain a little crunchy side, should not cook totally.
So for the spring onions, right now what we've done is we've removed, you know, spring onions come with the bulb of the onion at the bottom. We've removed that and used only, hold on one second. We've used only the green sections. That doesn't mean you throw the bulbs away. You can use them for another recipe. They're great for Chinese recipes and for other things. In a stir fry, you don't want like a very large chunk of onion like that coming in your mouth. And if you've noticed this recipe actually doesn't have any onion in it, apart from the spring onions, of course.
But that's optional. If somebody does want to add onions and they like it, then the cutting of all the vegetables has to change.
Yeah.
You can't have sliced onions in it, it doesn't go. Then everything has to be cut in cubes.
So the way you cut your vegetables depends really on the heat source. Now, if I was doing a grill, right, or if I was doing a grill, or if I was doing, let's say, it in the oven, right, then I would cut like larger chunks, because the heat is different and the exposure to heat is much longer. When you're cutting it really thin, if you put this in the oven, it will burn in 5 minutes, right? But in a wok, this is how it's much easier. Now, the good thing about this is, okay, let me add the next thing and I'll tell you.
Now, I think we should, while we are stir frying this, I'm going to add the cabbage. But before adding the cabbage, we should put on a kettle or heat some water on the side, because we'll need at least half a cup of hot water to add to this, so that we can add the slurry and it is done immediately.
Okay, I'm going to grab the water.
Now we can add the cabbage, which has been cut very thin.
No, you put it on now.
Cabbage tastes very nice, crunchy.
Once it's done, just keep it on. The kettle only.
Need to stir nicely. As I mentioned earlier, that we have hardly put any oil. Now that the kettle is on, we are coming to the end.
So here's the thing, why we're showing you this particular recipe, because after we finish doing it, I'll tell you, for the people who missed it, we'll tell you how we started. We'll tell you how to modify it so that you can turn this into a noodle as well. You can change the sauce to change the complete flavor profile. So basically the one base recipe, and if you are someone who doesn't have time to cook, if you make that one base recipe, you can stretch it, right? You could do a meal which is, if you have the stir fry, you can put it in a sandwich, right? Or like make a Frankie or something out of it. If you have the stir fry with you, and one day you can add, like, you've done the veg, you add the chicken to it, you have that. You add soy one day, you can stretch the meal quite a bit. You can add rice noodles or the other noodles.
You can have it plain rice.
Yeah, you can have it on the side of plain rice with an egg. You can have it with, you can put the rice noodles in it. I've sent that link before. So from that one recipe, with the same sauce, you could get multiple recipes, right? Or you can even start changing the sauce in each recipe. But this one thing, it'll usually take you less time to do this, because we're doing it live and we're trying to sort of make sure that you see all the steps. We're doing it slower. But once you've done it, you can stretch the recipe out so that it becomes much easier for you as well. So just
as you can see, they're lovely colors. It looks really nice. And when it's just a little, when the cabbage becomes a little more soft, then we can add the water.
Yeah.
Then we can add the soy sauce first, then the water, and then the slurry, and we are done. After that, you can taste to check the seasonings, whether the salt, pepper, soya is all okay, and then change it according to your liking.
So if you want, let me know in the comments. What I can do is, in next week's recipe that I email out, I can send you all the base sauces that you can make. So, you know, if you want to use this with a soy sauce base, you want to use it like a Szechuan base, you want to use it in, let's say, a sweet and sour base, right? Or you want to use it in an oyster sauce base. All those are just changing of the sauce, because this one procedure remains the same. Think of it like making a dal, right? Like this dal is made the same way. The tadkas keep changing and the vegetables keep changing, a bit like that, right? If I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we add the soya sauce to this. we shall use only 1 tablespoon. I'll put it out in a little bowl so that I don't end up putting more, because
Yeah.
in case my hand slips or something, which has happened many times, and then you'll end up with so much of soy sauce you won't know how to go about it.
Because it's
Yes.
salty, even I prefer to put all the
So
sauces.
this is, yeah, here's the soy sauce. I'll just put it, and then I shall stir it and mix it really well, getting a nice flavor of the soya sauce.
Again, this is a light soya, the Kikkoman one.
Now we can add a little bit of water.
Do you want to pour it into a
pour it in the
katori
center
or
like this.
you want to put it in the
Just pour
center?
it.
Tell
Yeah.
me when, or you want to put it in a bowl.
It's about let's say about a quarter cup of water, and then you mix it, and then you add the slurry.
I'm just putting everything behind me. Okay, so that's the
This
slurry.
is the
yeah.
slurry. So once you add the water, you add this slurry. Made a very little slurry because the idea is just to have a coating of the sauce, ginger, garlic with all the veggies. So every mouthful of veggie that you have, you'll get a flavor of everything that we have used.
And the mushroom.
Yes.
Okay, so someone asked whether you
Now
can
we
put.
add the now we can add the mushrooms and stir it well. This is a stage in which you can also add the chicken, and if you're using eggs, also the eggs. I'll just tell you how
any
to
of
do
the
eggs.
yeah, so any of the proteins. So someone asked about paneer, soy, tofu. You can add any of them. You'll have to pre-cook them the way we pre-cook the mushroom, right? For each one, you can use a different marinade. You can even use a simple marinade or no marinade at all, right? We had also said in the beginning that if you soak green chili, garlic in the kikkoman sauce in the morning, it tastes really nice to serve on the side. But you can also soak the tofu or the paneer in it and then stir fry a little bit and add it in the end. The chicken has to be again pre-cooked, marinated, pre-cooked the strips. She had explained how, and put it in the end. It can't be cooked in it because the cooking times are different. If I'd put the chicken in first, or she'd put it in first, by now it would be overcooked and be like rubber, right? If you put in the paneer first and you kept stirring like this, it'll become full crumbs, right? So the protein comes in right at the end.
Yeah, but you need to stir fry it and keep it aside like we did with the mushrooms, and then you can add it in the end. Now it is done. Our dish is done.
We'll switch off
So-
the thing. Now, if you want, we'll go. If anyone wants, we'll go over it quickly. Ooh, ow!
Oops,
But
sorry.
somebody has. Shamin asked if we use a chopper. For Chinese, that's probably the only one of the cuisines where I would recommend not using a chopper, because Chinese they cut very precise amounts. So when the idea is that everything is always the same size. So in this we went for juliennes or the thin strips, right? If you are going for chunks, whatever. If you're going like in fried rice, it is tiny cubes. You can't use a chopper for any of these because choppers don't have even cuts. They are really good for like mincing onion and garlic. For this you can use it for the garlic also, like for your curries and all, because you don't need a specific cut. But in Chinese, you need everything cut exactly the same because cooking times matter. So if you have something that is an uneven shape, one is bigger, one is smaller, something will gullo or become soft and soggy faster, and the other one will be raw. So unfortunately, in Chinese, you have to cut by hand, and that's the only thing in Chinese cooking that actually really takes long, because it's. But if you live abroad, I'm supposed to eat this.
You can taste it. But this
Yeah.
filling you
So-
can also use for making spring rolls. If somebody wants to make spring rolls, but do not then put the water and corn flour, just use the stir fry veggies and put it in spring roll and roll it, and you can either do an air fry, or you can just not shallow fry, just put little bit of oil in a pan and put it there and keep turning it and flipping it so that it's
So
okay.
to be honest, for the spring rolls, I love using rice paper. If you've seen the rice papers that you get, you soak it in a little water and then you place it and fold it like a spring roll and brush it with a little bit of oil and put it in the air fryer. It tastes amazing. It becomes really crispy. So yeah, and then makes it gluten free as well. So you will get a stir fry. Again, this is with thin strips. You can turn it, you can add noodles to it. We can change the sauce to be whichever sauce you want, right? This is just a soy based sauce, right?
You
What
can
are
even have it with rice. It tastes very nice with rice as well, with a side sauce of either a soya sauce or something. It tastes really nice. So you could try lots of things with it. And if you want to add egg, a lot of people put omelette strips, but I somehow prefer to make a fried egg, and a nice thick fried egg. So you need to use at least 4 or 5 eggs. Use only one yellow and at least the rest all whites, and then take a pan, put oil, again rub the oil all around, add the egg whites with one yellow in it like a fry egg, and let it cook. When it becomes, when the white part is totally done, you just separate the yellow, cut it, and then cut into little strips and add it to the stir fry. It tastes really nice.
Yeah. So this is the base recipe. What we will do is, if you've got my previous recipe, you will have the soy nuggets in the sweet and spicy sauce. That same sweet and spicy sauce you can use for this as well. So you make the sauce on the side, you add this in it, right? Only the soy sauce part won't happen here. I have also sent the oyster sauce one before. I have sent the one with the chop suey. They're all different sauces, but if you want, I will send you just the recipe of all the sauces next week as well, so you know what to do with it. But just remember, when you are doing any sort of Chinese cooking, all your vegetables are the same size. You start out with the vegetable that takes the longest to cook first. So here it was the carrots, then it was the beans, and then you go, and the last vegetable is the one that cooks the fastest. Here we put in the cabbage, right? This is to make sure that the vegetables sort of don't become, if you put the capsicum first, by now it would have been completely soggy. We don't want that. You need the vegetables slightly crunchy. The sugar is a flavor enhancer. Don't skip that one. Don't use honey, because honey shouldn't be heated, and you can add any form of protein to it as you wish. Apart from that, those were the sort of main takeaways. If there anything else that you would like to know, let us know in the comments now. We're still online for about a minute or two. We've taken up your 30 minutes. Thank you so much for being here, and then we'll be back next Saturday at 4:30 with something completely different. You can tell us if you prefer an interview. Maybe we were thinking of with a dermatologist, or if you would prefer to do a workout with me. Whichever one you prefer, let us know. This video will be available today if you want to rewatch it. We're not sure about tomorrow because we might have to edit it, but otherwise it will be available. Let us know if there are any other recipes you want to do, and if you don't want to do Chinese and another cuisine, that works too, right? We're just starting out with this. It's new to us, so bear with us, and thank you for being here. If your comments come in, I'll still be online for the next 10-15 minutes. While we might not be on screen, you can still put your comments in and I'll reply. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.